on the NewsChannel 5 network. This is OpenLine.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to OpenLine tonight. Tonight's topic, we're talking about reforming marijuana laws when it comes to recreational marijuana. I have two wonderful guests with me to help guide us through the next hour. Let me introduce them to you. We have Paul Kuhn, who is an advocate for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. That's called NORML, or Beverly Moran, or I should say, and Beverly Moran, who is a board member for NORML. Thank you all both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
I assume that we will have a wonderful conversation over the next hour, and I invite you at home to call in with questions you may have about our laws here in Tennessee, or lack thereof them, and the steps being taken to reform laws when it comes to marijuana. The number is on the bottom of the screen, 615-737+ is the number to call. But first of all, I would love to hear more about NORML. Can you tell me more, Beverly?
Well, NORML is about to have its 50th anniversary.
Wow.
And it was founded in the 1970s, and it was founded by people who were taking a big risk. I mean, when you think about, and in many ways, there are parallels between this movement and, for example, the movement for gay rights. I mean, people were subject to arrest, to all sorts of harassment, but they knew in their hearts that it was the right thing to do, that the government should not be in a position to take away people's lives over something as simple and as healthful as marijuana use.
Before we dive into the actual laws, I would like to know from both of you, what is your why? Why are you advocating for this on behalf of changing laws? Paul?
Well, two reasons that converge. One is, this was actually the second, is my late wife battled cancer, and when she was undergoing chemo, including high-dose chemo, which is pretty severe, the legal drugs just didn't work at all. They totally failed. And with the approval of her oncologist, she used cannabis, and it worked perfectly, not a moment's nausea. So I experienced the medical aspect later on. That was 1996, 25 years ago. So we've known for a long time that marijuana is medicine. Earlier than that, I went to Vanderbilt, 1965 graduate. Never saw cannabis on campus.
Really?
It was there. I learned later that there were two groups that were smoking, the football players and the theater crowd. And I was not
diverse.
Yeah, that was a juxtaposition of two unusual groups. I never saw it. About 2 years later, it was all over. Chancellor Hurd at that time, was saying don't smoke in this. But I got brainwashed like everybody else, and then I went in the Navy and actually encountered marijuana for the first time. I was on a captain's mast, which is like a jury, and we were trying a young sailor who was caught smoking pot on the ship. And I wrote the dissenting opinion because I thought the penalty was not severe enough. It's a terrible drug, brain damage, etc. And a couple years later, I went back to an academic environment at Indiana University, and everybody was smoking pot, and I was horrified. So I thought, I'm going to save my classmates from a life of addiction, and I'm going to go to the library and educate myself. And I went to the library and checked all the books, educated myself, and I got mad because the government I had served had just lied to me, and they're still lying. So it was a combination of compassion for those who need it medically, and then just outrage that the government's lying about what it does for those of us who just prefer it as a safer alternative to alcohol and tobacco. So I've been working on this for almost 50 years. I got involved shortly after NORML was started.
Yeah.
And it's still illegal, but we're making great progress now.
And Beverly, what's your connection? What's your why?
Well, I came from the nonprofit world. I was, until recently, a law professor. My specialty was taxation, and within that, I spent a lot of time working with nonprofits. And I'd been on a number of different boards. And slowly, I started to come to understand how many people every year are getting arrested for marijuana use. I mean, close to 700,000 people every year, and what that means not only for their lives, but the lives of their families, the lives of their communities. And finally I just couldn't take it anymore, and I felt that I had understood from other organizations that I've been involved with. I'd understood this fear of arrest and fear of being ostracized, and I said to myself, I'm a tenured law professor. If I can't speak to this issue, then no one can.
True.
And I really felt that we were in a situation where we were talking about this coming up here, where there's been this stereotype of the movement as a bunch of, like wacky stoners.
Yeah, exactly.
When in
Hippies,
fact,
yeah.
Right. When in fact, I mean, we're talking about parents who have to watch their kids have seizures over and over and over again, and there's nothing they can do. And old people who can barely get up in the morning, and veterans who are like a half a day away from putting a gun in their mouths. And our answer to all of this is to lock people up. And it's just not right. And I think that many, many people in the United States know it's not right, but they're afraid to say anything because it's illegal.
Right. Right. We're going to go to the phone lines. This is Open Line. We'd love to have the conversation in a public forum here. We have Raina on the line. Hi, Raina. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I do believe in legalizing marijuana just for the fact that it would definitely help the state. It would help the county. It would help fix the roads. The kids could get better education. And it does help with people who have anxieties and PTSD and everything else. I mean, economy-wise, it would help. I've been to Colorado. They have got it down pat where they have legalized it, and it seems to be working great for them. Less people to worry about taking care of in prisons over it, jails. I mean, it would be a wonderful thing financial-wise for the whole state and for those that would like to use it as medicinal or just sit at home and use it recreational and have the common sense to read it at home.
Right, and I want to thank you, Raina, by the way, for calling in. I appreciate hearing from you. NORML advocates for 5 different things when it comes to responsible recreational use. Can you guys hit on those really quickly?
Well,
Would you like to
one would use it responsibly would be not driving while you're impaired. I think that's really the one that comes to mind. You did your homework,
I did
Carrie.
my homework. I did my homework.
We should know those five.
I'm not sure we understand what it is you're referring to.
Well, in the information that I got about what NORML advocates for the responsible recreational use, because we are talking about recreational use, and be no driving, considering your set and your setting, whether it comes to your own mood and then also those around you, resisting abuse, and let me flip this over here, respect of rights for others, and there's one more. I gotta find out where that one is. Oh, and adults only, except when prescribed by a physician for a child. So those would be the 5 areas. Let's get back to the phone lines now. I just wanted to cover that so we kind of are all under the same umbrella of what we're talking about here when it comes to reforming laws as for what NORML stands for. Let's go to Tony. Hi, Tony. Hi there. Go ahead.
Yes, I was just wondering, the strict enforcement of medical marijuana as opposed to recreational, because the recreational, it would also be as a DUI if you were using it without a prescription, and at the workplace and on the highways and things. And the different types of marijuana that they are growing now is so much stronger than they used to be back in the 60s and 70s. I mean, I wouldn't want to work at a place, with somebody that was coming in off of a high from the night before from recreational use, and that's just my comment.
Yeah, let's address all that. Mike brought up a lot of great things. Where do you want to start with, Beverly?
Well, the first thing I wanted to say is that we already have all sorts of restrictions against people being intoxicated in the workplace. And employers have all the rights to fire people, to not hire people, to exclude people who are intoxicated. So bringing recreational marijuana or medical marijuana to any part of the country doesn't open the doors to an intoxicated workplace. I also wanted to comment on what Raina had said. And I think that her point about taxation is particularly important in Tennessee, because Tennessee, I believe, is the only state in the country that has a constitutional prohibition against an income tax. So we're really in a difficult situation in that there's very little that we can tax without putting a heavy tax burden on working people. And as to the 5 points that you made, I just wanted to tell people that NORML has always stood for the consumer. So one of the things that's very important now, as states throughout the country go either legal in terms of medical marijuana or legal in terms of recreational, is protecting consumers, making sure that what consumers get is free of harmful pesticides and molds and all sorts of other things that could bring harm to people.
I wonder about the push for both the medical marijuana and recreational marijuana. Are these two pushes tied together? Are they moving at different paces in Tennessee? Do you want to keep them separate? What about those efforts?
They're separate for sure, and there's no hope of legal adult use in Tennessee now. It's tough enough just to get a medical bill through.
Failed several years now.
But a medical bill, every state that is legalized has experienced medical first, because I think when you have medical marijuana and all those bad things that they warn us about that aren't true, the voters realize what they warn us about is not true. And so maybe we ought to look again at having a regulated and controlled distribution system for adult use, because a black market system, as Beverly was saying, is really the worst possible distribution system. There's no quality control, there's no age control, there's no taxation. It's just like going back to the Volstead Act with liquor prohibition. We know how that worked out. And we have some interesting statistics. I think the study just came out earlier this month that workers' compensation claims have dropped in medical marijuana states.
Really?
And they think it may be the alcohol substitution, that instead of using alcohol, which really does impair you for quite a long while, patients are smoking marijuana and not having that impairment.
That's interesting. Let's get back to the lines here. We've had a lot of calls. I knew we would. I do believe we have Trudy on the line. Trudy, are you with me?
Yes, I am, dear. Thank you for having me.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, I have never even seen this before, and we were scanning through the channels, and I seen the marijuana law reform, and I was like, oh my God, finally somebody is talking about something that I've been wanting to talk about forever. But being a member of the church belt or the South or whatever we want to call this prohibition, I like that word. I think it's time that the people that are smoking get a chance to tell the people that are taking pills and anxiety and all this that there's a different way. I think that being back to plant-based would be so much better for our health, and I am so excited to hear that y'all, I'm not familiar with either one of the names, but I keep hearing NORML, and I love that. And I know the doctor said he'd been there since 1965. Well, that just happened to be the year I was born. And ain't nobody I ever know that got out drinking and driving that when I smoke, I don't want to get out and drive. I just want to sit home and chill. And I just think thank y'all for putting that on, and I'm going to hush a minute and let y'all talk.
Well, Trudy, you know what? We have to take a quick commercial break, but we have a lot more to talk about, and we have more calls to get, so we'll do that right after this.